Welcome to IGS 10-minute lecture series. This series is brought by the IGS department. IGS stands for Integrated Global Studies. In this series, a professor from the department will give you a mini lecture about her or his research area. Hello everyone, my name is Miki Shibata. Today, I'd like to talk about how humans learn a language. First, let me give you my brief bio note. I obtained my doctoral degree from University of Arizona in the States. My research area is second language acquisition with focusing on language attitudes toward different varieties of English and the role of identity in second language learning. By the way, second language refers to any languages you have learned or acquired after your first language or native language. I have published several books in Japanese and also my papers have appeared in some professional journals. Now, let me begin. In the past, the theory called behaviorism claimed that children should learn a language through imitating their caregivers, such as their parents. However, the imitation may not be the only way. Well, for example, some children say jamamas, which means pajamas to them. Interestingly, the adults don't use the word jamamas, but we say pajamas. And also, sometimes some children say, I hate you, mommy. Again, such negative and strong expression is not commonly addressed toward the children. So, the question is, where does that come from? Those examples I just brought up suggest that the imitation is not sufficient to explain the reality of child language acquisition. Children are exposed to a language spoken by the adults around them in a community. However, the adults do not always speak grammatically correct sentences and sometimes do not complete a sentence. Yet, children learn the language unconsciously and can use the language without any problems at the end. If they are exposed to such poor quality language input, how come they learn very complicated grammatical rules? In the area of language acquisition research, the poor quality input is referred to as poverty of stimuli. Another miracle is that children have acquired the basic rules of the language approximately by the age of 5. Such a short period of time, so fast. Then, the question is, how come they can learn the language so quickly? Also, the imitation cannot explain children's creative language use. For example, sometimes they produce a verb from a noun, such as from the noun doctor, which refers to a person, to the unique verb doc, which means to fix or cure. The noun doctor and the verb doc are connected in terms of meaning association. The doctor is a person who fixes or cures our illness and injuries. Another example is a piece of bread instead of a toast. Again, here is a meaning similarity between bread and toast, although a toast in this sentence is not the bread we eat. Actually, there are two words of toast. Anyway, children are so good at making new sentences which they have never heard before. Interestingly, however, their unique expressions are not randomly produced, but still follow the linguistic rules of the language they are exposed to. So the question is, where does their creativity come from? If they simply imitate the adults, we cannot solve this puzzle. Then, in 1965, one scholar named Chomsky brought one solution to the puzzle. He addressed the question by claiming that human beings are born with a special mechanism. He named it language acquisition device, and his position is called innatism. Chomsky is not the specialist on language acquisition, but he is the most well-known linguist in the world. His theories have been enormously influential in the research related to language, including grammar and second language acquisition. According to Chomsky's innate theory, children are born with an innate knowledge of the basic language rules, which is referred to as universal grammar. Universal grammar is a basis and is applicable to all human languages. However, it does not work unless language input activates it. That means children must be exposed to a specific language in a daily life. So my case, I was born with universal grammar and I grew up in a community where the local people use Japanese daily. So my universal grammar turned to be the Japanese language grammar. If I were born in Italy, my universal grammar should help me acquire Italian. So it depends on where you are born and what language you are exposed to. In other words, I speak Japanese not because I'm a Japanese, but the language I was exposed to happened to be the Japanese language. Here, I'd like you to keep in mind that the language acquisition device or universal grammar is just a hypothesis in order to explain the facts of child language acquisition. If we hypothesize such mechanism, everything appears to make sense. Okay, the next question is, how about a foreign language learning? When we study a foreign language, does a language acquisition device or universal grammar work for it in the same way as it does for the first language? Well, I'll talk about this topic another time. I hope you enjoyed my mini lecture. If you find language acquisition and learning interesting and exciting, well, I do hope to see you in my courses here at the IGS program.